Polite reminder: my friend made that cover or that remix. So yeah, you should check out his channel. LSE. He's a busy boy, but he's very talented. PNP again? What? What does that mean? PNP. Picture in picture. What does that mean? It looks fine on my end. Let me see my phone. Hmm. No, on my phone it looks fine. So, before we get to the main event, I did see some, low-key, the New Statesman podcast is actually not bad. I'm going to throw this link in there. If you guys get bored, is this the new format? It's not really changed that much. This is actually quite interesting, especially since they got Ollie Dugmore. I think Ollie Dugmore's done a lot for this podcast already. It's a lot more serious now. But they've also got there's another journalist who's on here. I can't remember her name. This is the one, yeah. Quite impressed. They managed to. She was originally with them, but they managed to take her back from Bloomberg, and yeah, she's pretty good. So I'm impressed by the levels here in terms of not necessarily the analysis you get, but the facts and information. Because obviously these people are a lot more like connected than I am, or than I ever will be. But the one I'm talking about specifically, we'll see her in a minute. She's a lobby journalist, or was a lobby journalist, so that means she has really good connections within Westminster and within like the political parties. So yeah, we're gonna watch this one. Then I want to talk about Zara a little bit more, and then we're gonna discuss. We're gonna be discussing something else. So let's get on with this one first.
Simon Meadows, who appears to have submitted under his real name, or at least a name that could be a real name. Thank you. And he asks, are we stuck in a cycle of grass is greener on the other side? When we had the chaos of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, we were crying out for a return to boring politics. Now we have a government that is 50 shades of beige.
I wouldn't say, given the fact that you had Lisa Nandy hiring someone who had donated to a campaign, and Starmer signing off on that one, because this person also donated to, the Labour Party, Starmer's constituency. I would not say that's beige. You got the Rayner stuff, definitely not beige. The CV lying stuff, kind of mid, to be honest with you. But you've also got the winter fuel allowance, the changes they wanted to make to personal independence payments. I would say this government is not beige. This is not the quiet competence that we were promised by Ian Dunn or Otto English. It's nice, isn't it? The quiet. That's what you say in the horror movie before you get attacked by a bunch of zombies, or the Flood if you played Halo 1. The second, one of the best Halos.
Still disquiet among the populace. Are we hoping that our politicians can deliver some kind of utopia that, by definition, is never deliverable? I liked the brief period of boring politics. I wish we'd had a bit more of that. I don't feel like it's been particularly boring this week.
Based, because it's not. The Starmer. He's. If you want to take the belt, come take it, and then him embarrassing himself.
But I do understand.
Yeah, the grown-ups in the room.
The point that he's making, that the Starmer government is not as colourful, perhaps, as previous governments have been. What do you think?
Credit to Boris Johnson. At least he was funny.
Oh, I mean, I think yes, and I can't completely explain.
This is the person I was talking about here. I can't pronounce the name.
Why? I've been sort of asking myself, and other people have been saying, how is it that this new Labour intake and the PLP elected in 2024, but all of them together, including the ones who were MPs beforehand, how is it that this group of people is a completely different group of people to the 2019 Boris Johnson cohort, and yet it's exactly the same in terms of the things they talk about, the way they brief, the frustrations, even, the sort of the speculation on a leader, but not just that, and the kind of briefing. It's also, we need to pick our coalition. Which seats are we going to hold on to after the next election?
I think what's happened is you've got a load of new MPs that have come in. You've also tried to get rid of some older ones as well. And I think these MPs want to hold on to what they have. And so you kind of go back to what you know, which is you look at, the, what was it called? The politicians, what's it called? The Economic Research Group, or whatever they're called, the Northern Tory MPs. You go back to what you know, which is set up factions and pressure groups within the party in the hopes that you manage to hold on to your seat, because they're looking at reform and they're nervous. A lot of these people are new MPs, and even the ones that have been there for a while, they're not sure what's going to happen next election. So it makes sense that they would kind of revert to what Boris Johnson's MPs did, which is there is strength in numbers. And so going, at that point, it's pretty easy to figure out. With the briefings and stuff, I think they learned a lot from Dominic Cummings and how to try and influence things. And so the only thing they know, well, to be fair, that's actually not true. They've always done toxic briefings because that's all they know. They want to get out there that they're not happy with the way things are going. So they brief against each other because they're not succeeding in the policy areas they should be succeeding in.
This kind of febrile atmosphere in Parliament.
When you look at who's doing the briefings, right, it's number 10 is Downing Street. So why are Downing Street doing the briefings? It's because they are failing politically. Starmer's opinion poll ratings are in the mud. No one likes the geezer. No one likes the Prime Minister. The party is in the mud. But actual, certain ministers are doing okay, relatively speaking. I think education's okay, apart from the anti-trans stuff, which is horrible. You've got the NHS stuff, which is going better, I think. It's not good enough. I think with the privatisation stuff, still, with those contracts and things, still not impressed, but it's going somewhere. And I think if you look at the area, the Home Office is doing terribly, but we'll discuss the Home Office. Most of the videos going to be, most of the streams going to be on the Home Office. But when you think about who is failing in government, right, it's Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is the biggest failure in government right now, and he's in charge. When you look at where the briefings are coming from, it's from Starmer's team.
It feels like it's a bit a cliche to talk about now, but I actually still feel like we haven't quite got to the bottom of it. It's obviously a post-Brexit thing, a social media thing, probably a part of the way we as a media class cover politics, but definitely, it was less than a year into Starmer being Prime Minister that people were talking about who should replace him. And even when he was doing well, people were talking about, who should replace him or who his successor would be.
No one thought he would go more than a term because of his age and also his lack of political nous.
The grass is greener on the other side mentality, definitely among MPs. And I think as a media class, we're all quite interested in who the next leader might be. I think you could do a whole podcast series on it, that people don't want to stick with leaders for a long time or political parties for a long time.
I think people would be happy to stick with a leader for a long time. If you look at the two longest we had, right, we had David Cameron had 6 years and he resigned. But he could have stayed on for 10. If he didn't do the whole Brexit thing, he could have stayed on for 10. Before him, obviously Gordon Brown, post-recession. But you had Tony Blair, who was there for about a decade, I'd say. So I don't think it's the case that people are desperate to chop and change. I think people are desperate for some sort of stability that political parties aren't offering. Stability and change in terms of people that aren't complete eggheads and that keep causing constant scandals, but also change in the fact that people want more, they want more in life. They want better in life.
Time, it's all quite disposable.
Yeah, I wonder if that's to do with, George has written about this, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, the Netflixification of politics.
Fucking kill me. I bigged these guys up. I actually did. I bigged these guys up as well at the start of the podcast. Get Doug Moore on. He wouldn't say nonsense like that. Get my boy Ollie on. Jesus Christ, the Netflixification of politics, the footballification of politics. Like, this is just cringe. Like, no, that's not what's happening here. Cringe.
Is that right? That, it's fracturing and there are more choices now, and so we want a party or a leader that fits with a much wider range of what we personally believe.
Yeah, people want to swipe left on Keir Starmer.
Swipe left, swipe right. Tinder analogy.
The Tinderification.
Just shoot me, guys. I'm sorry.
Of politics.
I was going to ask Luke if he believed this.
Everyone in the internet is just desperate for a gimmick. Everyone is desperate for a gimmick.
Government was 50 Shades of Beige.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is that I think if you look at the actual characters at the top of government, it probably is fair to say that they're 50 Shades of Beige, but the events haven't gotten any less interesting. So with Boris Johnson, there was a series of scandals. Boris Johnson himself is a very colourful character. So when he was Zing with them, it kind of made for great news copy. With Keir Starmer's government, a series of scandals. Starmer himself is, by all accounts, a very uninteresting man. Our editor Tom wrote a very long profile of him to try to get to the bottom of, and essentially his conclusion was he's just a very uninteresting man.
Yeah,
I mean, he has the same catchphrases. My dad was a toolmaker. My mum was a nurse. I lived in a semi-dash pebble house. What's it called? We were working class growing up. What else did I know him? He was head of the CPS as well. Don't forget that he's in charge of the CPS. Is there anything else? Is there anything else he likes to mention a lot? I'm trying to remember. If there's anything else, let me know in the chat.
To get something interesting, what's the interesting hinterland, behind or within Keir Starmer, and there doesn't seem to be one other than Arsenal.
He's almost like a sort of
that's probably it makes sense why he's the way he is. He's an Arsenal fan. See it now.
Odd couple with politics, where he plays the straight guy and all the events in the party in Westminster plays the funny guy around him. And so what's I think amusing about Starmer is his inability to really cope with that. And in terms of Netflixification of politics, I do agree with that. I think also we got addicted to scandal, to constant news cycles, to I think a lot of journalists.
All we've had for the last 3 weeks is a constant news cycle. The last 3 or 4 weeks with the budget, the Lisa Nandy stuff, the West Streeting stuff, the Home Office changes to refugee status. All we've had is 4 weeks of a news cycle, which is crazy. Head of the DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions. That's the CPS, isn't it? When they were in power, they left us in a black hole. Oh yeah, that's true. What's it called?
Their goal is to get someone to resign, right? Like to basically crack a case so big that you take out one of the front bench, maybe even the Prime Minister. People see that as a big sort of feather. And I just think that perhaps that mixed with the low growth, mixed with the chaos of Trump coming in, mixed with like Brexit, all these other conditions came together and have left us a situation where there is, as Andrew Marr called it, a bit of a doom loop in British politics at the moment.
And it's really dangerous, actually, because I was speaking to Luke Trill, head of More in Common, who does lots of polling on this, and one of the things that seems to come up in focus groups and polls a lot, and came up a lot around the time of the election, is people abandoning the Conservatives and voting Labour.
Thanks, Andy, for the super chat. There is no place for anti-Semites, Starmer says. That's true. He also told a lot of other people to leave, so, there's that as well. He told these people to leave and they left, and now they're all sad that they left. But yeah, if you guys want to send in any more super chats, please feel free to. I'd always appreciate it.
Supporting Labour, not because they liked Labour, not because they liked Keir Starmer, but because they were just so sick of the chaos, the infighting, the psychodrama, the personality politics, the leadership speculation, and they would rather have a government that they didn't particularly like, doing things that they didn't particularly want to happen, but that was doing.
But don't forget, they also spiked the interest rates dramatically, did nothing to deal with inflation, and maybe out of other things where they failed to act on things, and that's what led to the hatred of the Conservative Party, in my opinion. And let's not forget that there was no one. The people who are the most surprised that Starmer won that election is Starmer's team, because they had no preparation for it. That's what we're learning about more and more as days go on. But this is something we knew when the manifesto came out, because it was so vague and so boring. People were coming up with the idea that they kept it vague on purpose so they could make specific changes and say, oh look, here's in the manifesto, it says this. But I didn't believe that. That was cope, in my opinion. Yeah, the sausages, free the sausages. Yeah,
doing them in a boring, competent way, and where you could be pretty certain that the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, key ministers were going to continue to be in place. They'd rather have that than constant speculation and who's up, who's down, and who are we making resign this week. And it does feel that in the last couple of months at least, the chaos that infected the Conservative Party has started to infect Labour as well. And when that happens, the people who backed Labour, who didn't particularly want to, but who thought they were the competent option, they're inevitably going to go somewhere else, and the polls show they are looking quite seriously at basically everyone else other than the Conservatives. So it's a dangerous moment as well. But in terms of, is the grass always greener? I feel like if we could have the boring, I completely take Alva's point, it's very, very difficult, but if we could have that period of boring, stable politics, people would quite like it. That would be quite popular.
Oh, but I think every government is aiming for that. You know,
Yeah.
they all have these moments where like, we just have to prove that we can govern well. We can't have any more scandals, you know, no more briefings. When Rishi Sunak replaced
He was meant
Liz
to be
Truss,
boring, yeah.
when Rishi Sunak replaced Liz Truss, that was the thinking, and he just couldn't manage it. And Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, that was
He kept pushing the Rwanda stuff as well, and I think that's one of the things that doomed him. And the fact that there wasn't a lot of confidence in him anyways. You know, he lost to Liz Truss in that original leadership contest.
actually a lot of their appeal, and they haven't managed it either. So I think it's, you know, that's the dream. The sunlit uplands, Rachel.
That is the...
Yeah, classic sunlit uplands. So I thought this would be a nice opening piece for you guys, because it's a bit soft. I still can't work out how Labour thought they wouldn't win the election, considering the public had enough. I don't know, man. They thought they had... So the plan was, so Starmer wins, they clear out a load of lefties and a lot of people they don't like, right? They clear them out, and then after that, there's an election. So the 24 election, they get rid of Starmer and they bring in someone like Wes Streeting. That was the original plan. The problem was Starmer won. That's what happened. Maybe because they are so internalised. I don't know. If Labour don't make people's lives better, it's over. Yeah, I mean, I think it's over for them as is. But I want to shift gears from Labour to talk about Zara Sultana, because there's a big problem in I think social media politics, because people keep making up definitions for things, and it's kind of pissing me off. And it's not because of it's a little bit because of my background, my political background. I think that's why, and it also muddies the water and things like that. And I think especially with the way your party was meant to be, I think I'm a bit peeved off about it. I don't know how to explain it, guys, but it's a little bit frustrating. So we're going to listen to what Zara has to say, because I had this issue with someone else who was making up political definitions because they didn't understand that you can have socio-economic policies. You don't necessarily have to have a social policy and an economic policy. They can be, you know, one in the same, or something. You know, they can work together. Like if the government goes on a mass spree of building council houses, it has an effect on the economy, because you're spending money building houses, you're also taking up resources and things like that. So you could have an inflationary effect, but also you're creating jobs and investment. But also has a social aspect to it, which is you're potentially, you know, lowering the cost of rent, because social housing, typically the rents are much cheaper than privatized rents. But also you are potentially housing a lot of homeless people, housing a lot of vulnerable people who can't move out of the place they currently live. These are social things that also have potentially benefits as well. If someone's living with someone abusive and they want to get out, if they have, you know, social housing available to them, they can get out of that situation. And, you know, we've covered on this channel, it's a long time ago now, and it does make me sad I don't cover this stuff more, but we covered the cost of domestic violence. It's a really old video, I think it's about 4 or 5 years old. But, you know, the actual cost of domestic violence is very high in terms of dealing with the mental aspect of it, you know, to get someone help, but also the physical aspect of it. The cost of it's costing the NHS of repairing, you know, broken bones and other kinds of injuries is very expensive. It's very expensive. And the argument I made in that video was about how, you know, fiscal conservatives should be happy about spending more money on the NHS and domestic violence services, and, you know, things like that, because it saves us money long term. But, you know, they only understand, you know, pounds and pence. They don't understand human emotion. But I did see this video from Zara, and it's a bit... It's frustrating on 2 levels, and I'll explain why it's frustrating on 2 levels in a minute. Let's actually listen.
There is no room for socially conservative views in a socialist left-wing party, period.
Adnan Hussein, who's recently angered a lot of the prospective members of the new party by saying that trans women are not biologically women, and safe third spaces should be an option for trans people. How do you manage that as you set this new party up and place core values in situ that are going to guide the way that policy is being drawn up.
We have to defend the rights, dignity and life of everyone, and that means centering the most marginalised. And if people don't have pro-trans, pro-migrant, anti-racist values, there are plenty of other political spaces that you can enter, but not this one, because we have to have our values, we need to let people know what we stand for, and then we need to be going out to the country and saying this is the vision of society that we want, that we believe we can achieve, and we want you all to be part of it.
So who is we? In this situation, I want to ask you the guys a question. So when you look at what she says here, right?
Set this new party up and place core values in situ that are going to guide the way that policy is being drawn up.
We
guide the way that policy is being drawn up. So this was originally meant to be a member-led party. Your party is a democratic, member-led socialist party that stands for peace, equality, social justice, and international solidarity, right? But if it's member-led, so these are all not naff ideals, but very vague ideals, right? Stands for peace, equality, social justice and international solidarity. Now, I'm not an anti-trans person, but those anti-trans people make the argument about equality, about women's only spaces, right? So how do you define equality in that definition, or social justice into these definitions? You would have to have some sort of vote on what these things actually mean, or some sort of vote on actual policy. So this is a member-led socialist party, guys. So when we look at what socialism is, right, and I Google this, because this is the point of when people change definitions of things, it kind of it really does a disservice to the definitions that I think people have accepted. That's the problem I have with a lot of people in politics at the moment. They kind of make up their own definitions to suit them, and that's one of the things I'll touch on in Operation Flamesaber when we get there. But the point being is, look, socialist ideals include production for use rather than for profit, an equitable distribution of wealth and material resources among all people, no more competitive buying and selling on the market, free access to goods and services. Now, some of this, okay, I'm not 100% sure on, but this is a definition for it, sure. You can go on Google, they have their AI kind of definition, which kind of steals things from other sites. But socialism is mostly about collective or public ownership and control of a means of production. It's more based on economics rather than a social aspect. You can have these very kind of left-wing parties in say Denmark, which we'll be discussing, but they're also very socially conservative in terms of they don't like foreign people. So you can have both of these things. And if you look at these kind of social policy in socialism, so try to Google this: healthcare, universal access to healthcare, education, publicly funded or subsidized, social security, providing a social safety net for unemployed benefits and guaranteed annual income, economic regulation, implementing regulations in some cases, planning to ensure fair distribution of wealth, right? There's nothing here about social policy aspects. There's nothing really here about it. If you go on Wikipedia, most people see socialism as an economic movement, not as a social movement, if that makes sense. That's the key difference here. So, they've got the root of the word which means to combine or share. It's related to more. There's a lot of like definition setting. I don't want to be one of those people that says I'm actually this doesn't mean that, but I think in politics it's important to have things like definitions so people know what you're talking about. And, she's trying to shape your party into something that she wants for herself, which is fine if you set up the party as the Zara Sultana party and say these are our ideals, and if you don't like them, you can leave. People confuse progressive with socialist, which is true. Yeah, that is true. But for me personally, it's a democratic, member-led socialist party that stands for peace, equality, social justice, and international solidarity. Right? The Labour Party could make these arguments. Well, they could say they're a party for peace, equality, social justice, and international solidarity. That's historically what the Labour Party is meant to be. Is their goal to transfer wealth, now concentrate in the hands of the few to the overwhelming majority in a democratic and socialist society. But again, you've changed the definition of socialism. That's my issue here, and she's made it what she wants it to be.
This new party up and place core values in situ that are going to guide the way that policy is being drawn up.
We have to defend the rights, dignity, and life of everyone, and that means centering the most marginalised. And if people don't have pro-trans, pro-migrant, anti-racist values, there are plenty of other political spaces that you can enter.
But again, when was this decided by the membership that we wouldn't accept, that they wouldn't accept these people? When was that ever accepted? There's a reason why I don't have any affiliations with political parties, because of stuff like this. Like, they're just kind of like, this whole Your Party thing is just such a fiasco, where she has no idea what she's doing. She's well out of her depth there, in my opinion. Like, all of them are. They have no idea. Like, this whole alliance is just crazy to me. Like, I genuinely, like, why is it that Your Party has to have these ideals? If it's a member-led party, if it's a democratic member-led party, what if they want someone like Adnan Yusuf or whatever his name is in the party? It doesn't make sense. This whole operation makes no sense to me. I don't know. To you guys, does it make sense? You know what she's saying here? That this is her view for Your Party. She is quite confrontational. It's not a bad thing, you know. There's nothing wrong with being confrontational. In my opinion, I think sometimes it's a good thing. You know, sometimes you have to know where you stand with someone. But you know, Your Party was launched by Corbyn and Sultana, right? Corbyn clearly a fan of Adnan Yusuf. I think they took pictures together and stuff like that. So why is it okay for him to get, you know, essentially bullied out of the party? I don't have any love for the geezer, I'll be honest. But he was part of the party and he was pushed out. So, but my whole point of questioning this is, what is this party meant to be for? What is the whole point of this operation? That's what I don't get. It doesn't make any sense. I know I won't be going to the stupid thing. I know you guys tried to make me go, right? Because I stupidly baited myself into a vote, right? But I'm not going to. Oh, that's already gone. I could have gone to this one, so Milton Keynes. I could have gone to that one. I get it, but also there needs to be core values that aren't lost if everyone is in agreement initially. But the point is, like, who's decided on these core values? Whose idea was this? If the party was founded by Corbyn and Sultana, is this what Corbyn believes? Because Corbyn was friends with this guy. Corbyn obviously wanted this guy to be a part of the party, the Yatney trans landlord. So it doesn't make sense. I could have gone to this one, to be honest. I missed that one. Missed that one by a lot, actually. So let's see what else we got here. Warwick, Leamington, East Kent. It's a very southern party. Kirklees, no idea what that is. Aberdeen, fair enough, it's in Scotland. It's nothing where I live, so, you know, tragic. If they do an event where I live, I'll go to it. That's the deal I'll make with you guys. All of these events are gone. I've not heard anything about them. Like, has anyone actually heard anything about any of these events happening? Who's the leader in Your Party? I think it's Zara and Jeremy are co-leaders, but I don't know. Has anyone been to any of these? Like, if they do an event in my town, I'll go. I'll actually use my annual leave for this nonsense. But as is, like, it's a waste of my time. But yeah. Waste of my time. Waste of my time. But yeah, not applicable in Northern Ireland. No, they can't. I don't think they can run there. What is Your Party? No. So anyways, I want to discuss this. So we'll go to the main event of the evening. So we'll listen to this clip from Shabana before we actually go on.
On Monday, I will announce the most significant changes to our asylum system
If this music's copyright, I swear to God, I'm putting my head through the desk.
in modern times. Today, I want to tell you why. Across Europe, asylum claims are falling, but in Britain, they are rising. In the last 4 years, 400,000...
So, chat, what happened in the last 4 years to change this? What happened 4 years ago that changed this? Answers in the chat.
people claimed asylum here. Over 100,000 are housed and supported at taxpayers' expense.
Yeah, because the facilities weren't set up to deal with the applications properly. That's not hard to figure out. Bingo, it's Brexit. Brexit is the answer.
Putting huge pressure on local communities. The previous government had years to tackle this problem. Instead, they wasted time and £700 million on their Rwanda scheme.
That's facts. That's actually facts.
Removing a sum total of 4 volunteers.
Which is funny because the agreement with the Labour Party of France has removed 2 people, so...
This government has been rebuilding. We have record levels of immigration raids and arrests. We have prevented over 20,000 illegal channel crossings.
I would love to get a fact check on that one. I can see in the community notes there was nothing about the 20,000. It was like... Labour hasn't stopped 20k votes. They have increased. The 50k return mix is involuntary. It doesn't sound like it's true. I don't think it was, to be honest.
On their Rwanda scheme.
Because they'd be pushing that.
Removing a sum total of 4 volunteers. This government has been rebuilding. We have record levels of immigration raids and arrests. We have prevented over 20,000 illegal channel crossings.
I guess they would make the argument that by seizing the equipment that they would use, like the boats and stuff.
And we have now returned nearly 50,000 illegal migrants. These were vital steps, but we must now go further. We need to reduce the numbers coming here illegally. We need to remove more people who have no right to be here. We will always be a country that...
So she's missing the how. That's the problem here.
Gives sanctuary to those fleeing danger. But we must restore order and control.
Okay, so do you know who's a big fan of this? Tommy Robinson. The Overton window has been obliterated. Well done, Patriots. And that's what one of my big fears around the Labour Party was, that they would adopt the wording and the phrases used by Reform, and they would shift the Overton window to the right, so that when you get other people that come in, it gives them more opportunities to push it and continue to keep moving the window. You know, they've done it on welfare, with the Labour Party kind of buying into their rhetoric on welfare. Hence why, you know, they try to do those cuts to personal independence payments and things like that. And they're doing it here with immigration. And this is something I warned you about. This wasn't just me, it was No Justice, it was other people. That you don't challenge Reform with their own rhetoric. Why? Because they'll win. And you push the conversation to a direction you don't want to be in, and you get put into a match. You're gonna have to go policy for policy against Nigel Farage on immigration, because you keep doing dumb shit like this, and you keep pushing this stuff constantly when you don't need to. So as I said, idea for idea, policy for policy. That's what you're doing here. Congratulations, Shabana. You've unlocked the much coveted Tommy Robinson endorsement. As you noticed, you've shifted the political conversation in the direction of the far right. You must be so proud. And this is Owen Jones discussing it here, saying Labour's remaining supporters need to ask themselves a searching question. Do you want a political party that is cheered on by Tommy Robinson because of its treatment of some of the most vulnerable people on earth? You know, Starmer's 6th pledge: defend migrant rights, an immigration system based on compassion and dignity. You have to hand it to the man, the biggest political conman in history. It's crazy to me, man. This is wild. And so yeah, there's more. Hopefully I've got it here. I should have it here. You know, the audio quality is not the best on this because the compressor Stevanovic uses, but he has got some clips here that are worth discussing. So they're gonna constantly reassess people's applications every couple of years to see if a country's safe.
Just on that point of reviewing people's cases every 2.5 years, which is much more regular than they are now, the Refugee Council has done some sums, and they've told us this morning that would mean more than 60,000 people being reassessed. And they say that could be a complete bureaucratic nightmare. And the Home Office doesn't have a great track record for administration and bureaucracy.
Well, it's my job to make sure that the Home Office bureaucracy works. I've made it very clear. No, well, I will look at what the Refugee Council is saying.
Surely you should know this, though. This is your policy, no? If you're going to review cases every 2.5 years, you should know how many cases, or have a rough estimate of how many cases you're meant to be reviewing, because this is your whole policy idea. This was your plan.
We do reassessments all the time. We are supposed to be reassessing what the situation is at the moment. Actually, one of my real frustrations since I've been in this job is often we have a set of rules and we don't enforce them properly. And the work of my predecessor, Yvette Cooper, when she was Home Secretary, and myself, is to make sure that the system itself, the administration, the bureaucracy that does work and that we are enforcing the rules that we...
Do you have the civil servants to do this, or are you going to use AI? What mechanisms are you using to do this? This is the question I'll be asking. Who is, how much do you have enough people to do this? Because you're talking 60,000 people to be reassessed every 2.5 years. Do you know how much work goes into reassessment? You'd have to look at an individual case as well. Would you send people back to Syria, for example, who were non-religious, or you're sending them back to what is the group in charge of them is a terrorist group. They were taken off the list, but that was only because they wanted to normalize relations with them.
We have, but the totality of the reforms that I will be setting out are designed to bring our system back into order and into control, so that we can then also continue to provide sanctuary.
This is nonsense. When we look at the system, they want to base it on Denmark, right? So 0 asylum seekers. Denmark forces refugees to return to Syria. So Mariam Awad is 22 and cannot remember the last time she had a good night's sleep. It was probably before her application to renew her residency permit as a refugee in Denmark was rejected 2 years ago. Before 2015, Awad's family lived in a small town outside Damascus but fled to Denmark after her older brother was detained by the regime. So they have a decent reason why they would want to flee. The family had been, beyond just the civil war in Syria, right? The family had been living in Aarhus, a port city in northern Denmark, for 8 years. Awad and her younger sister are the only family members facing deportation. The situation is far from unique, so they're only deporting the daughters by the looks of it, not the parents. And so, this is the system we're basing it on, that they wanted to deport people back to Syria during the height of the civil war. 2022, the Syrian civil war only ended this year, really, and is still ongoing a little bit, but for the most part, it was still ongoing in 2022 in and around Damascus, and they wanted to deport people to Syria. This is the system we're basing our immigration policy on, by the way, in case anyone wasn't clear on this.
Start with this notion that refugees would have to be here for 20 years before they can...
Fucking kill me. Honestly, just chuck me in the bin, guys.
...stay here for good. Is it possible that you could have a life here, a job here, maybe kids going to school, a family here, then after 19 years, if your country is then considered safe, you get booted out and sent home?
Well, look, I think that firstly, it is important that we deal with illegal migration into this country. It is an issue that is divided.
Going back to talking points, guys. Whoops, my mic's a bit loud. We're going back to talking points here. She wants this. They always do this. They always keep going back to their talking points. I don't know how to adjust this on the fly. But, do we keep going back to the talking points? We keep going back to, well, first of all, we have to deal with illegal immigration.
Our country, and I see this polarisation all over the country, including in my own constituency. We have a system that is out of control, it's unfair, and is putting huge pressure on communities. So it is important that we restore order and control to this system so that we can retain public permission and public confidence in having an asylum system at all, and that is what my reforms are designed to do. And because of that, we are looking to reduce the number of arrivals into the country, increase the number of removals of those who have no right to be in this country, and alongside that, as we restore order and control, to create new, safe and legal routes for people fleeing sanctuary.
Surely you create the safe, and this is what I've been saying for over a year, guys. Surely you create the safe and legal routes first, because that's how you that's how you lower the amount of channel crossings. If your goal is to reduce channel crossings, that's probably the best way to do it. If you set up the processing centre in France, that'd probably be the best way to do it. And also setting up facilities in embassies and consulates and things like that. Right. So we are yet to see if they're going to do these safe routes of entry. We have to actually see what they are, because people from certain countries like Ukraine, Hong Kong, for example, they have a safe way to enter the UK. They can enter via airport if they wanted.
All over the country, all over the world.
But if somebody has come here for the right reasons, they've come here, they've settled here, they have a family here, they have a job here, their kids might be in British schools, after 10, 15, 19 years, up to that 20-year moment, at any point the Home Office might say, you've been here, sorry, your country's safe, go.
Well, what the new reforms will do is change that generations-old assumption that sanctuary provided to refugees can very quickly lead to permanent settlement and all of the rights that go alongside that. We will be changing that to a more temporary process, and the situation will be assessed every 2.5 years. So if your country becomes safe in that intervening period and you are remaining on this essentially core protection model, you will be returned to your country, because we see countries that have started off in conflict and people have moved in order to escape that conflict becoming...
So you're talking 19 years. So imagine, right, if we had this rule in place and you had left Syria back in, say, 2011, right, you would get deported back to Syria. If the Ukraine war ends, right, if Russia's invasion stops, say there's a ceasefire or some sort of agreement that's made, right, or even under these rules, right, you say, well, there are parts of Ukraine that are safe. You know, you could go to, you could move back to Kyiv, for example, or another area that's on the western side that's not being bombed. This is the argument these people end up making.
Safe. So I think that is right. And but the whole of the proposals that I will set out tomorrow will also...
Now, it's possible, right, we're being baited here. Whoops, that's the wrong thing I want to carry over. It's possible. I don't want to play this clip because in case it's got music on it and I'll get done for copyright. But, come on. It's possible she's hit me with the big Ronaldo feint, you know. It's possible she's hit me with, you know, a couple of step overs. I don't know if you guys can see that clearly, but it's possible, look, she's going to hit a couple of step overs on me and then, bam, ankles get broken. It's very possible that happens, but I doubt it, given who these people are, right? They're trying to outperform them, saying, you know, because at the moment, it's 6 years. It takes a refugee a minimum of 6 years to claim UK citizenship. That's a long time, in my opinion. I think 6 years is a long time, but it's fine. It's whatever, okay? If you think about the war in Ukraine, it started in what, 2022? I want to say. When did the full invasion start? Oops. 2022 February. So imagine, right, in a couple of years' time, the war ends. So it'd be 6 years. So say next year, right, some miracle happens, the war ends, right? Would we start deporting Ukrainian people back to Ukraine and saying, like, Vlad's done, you got an agreement, pick up Zelensky, see ya? Honestly, absolutely ridiculous.
Provide new routes for people to be able to work in this country, and if you are working and...
New routes for people to be able to work in this country, what?
To provide new routes for people to be able to work in this country, and if you are working and contributing, you will be able to earn an earlier settlement in this country.
What? That's crazy. People have been saying for years, yeah, just let refugees work, especially given the lack of workers in this country, but they were saying they don't want to do that because it's a pull factor, even though other countries allow it, right? What? That's crazy. They're announcing some actual okay policies within the absolute myriad of nonsense. Like I said, maybe my ankles get broken here and the big feint she's going to pull off. But when you look at the main stage of it is, you're telling people, look, we've got a massive problem at the border. We're going to try and deal with it, even though it's not going to deal with the actual problems. It's not going to stop anyone. No one's going to think to themselves, oh, do you know what? Oh, it's going to take me 20 years to get citizenship in the UK. Let me go somewhere else. It's simply untrue. I saw a tweet, an interesting one actually, from ironically from Suella Braverman, who also failed to deal with this issue, right? Braverman's point is, this won't stop the boats. It won't fix the crisis at the border. It won't smash the gangs. All sounds tough, but won't make a bit of difference. I agree with Braverman. I don't think it'll make any difference, to be honest with you. You know, all this tough talk from governments here on this issue, and they don't deal with the fact that A, stop harming wars and stop encouraging dictators, for one, but also two, it's they're not going to think, oh, I'm going to be stuck being I won't be able to get citizenship until after 20 years. They're not going to think like that. This is crazy to me.
Moment for you, not long into your tenure at the Home Office. Let's start with this notion that refugees would have to be here for 20 years before...
Oh, sorry guys, this is the better audio on the clips. This is the most egregious clip for me.
I am the child of immigrants. My parents came to this country legally in the late 60s and the early 70s. This is a moral mission for me. I can see that illegal migration is creating division across our country. I can see...
Why is it creating division? What's the issue? You talk about illegal migration, which is actually, there's no such thing really. These are people seeking asylum. So who are you really angry at here? I get people that have their claims rejected, which is fine, but they are asylum seekers until the claim's rejected, and then you can deport them.
that it is polarizing communities across the country. I can see that it is dividing people and making them estranged from one another. I don't want to stand back and watch that happen in my country.
You know, talk about the island of strangers comment, which I don't understand how Phil claims that his speechwriters didn't know about it.
What is happening with our illegal migration system is this is a broken system. It's not right-wing talking points or fake news or misinformation that is suggesting that we've got a problem. I know because I have now seen this system inside out. It is a broken system. We have a genuine problem to fix. People are angry.
I mean, mate, it's not that hard to see. I'm not in the bloody Home Office, and I could tell you that. A lot of people could tell you what the issues are. Zoe Gardner doesn't work in the Home Office. She knows it. She can tell you how to fix it. It reminds me when people said, "Oh, Rory Shute went into politics to understand it." It's like, what? It's like you don't need to be in the system to understand the system. I didn't need to be inside communist Russia to understand how communist Russia worked.
Angry about something that is real. It is my job, therefore, to think of a proper solution to this very real problem.
You had the election cycle to figure this out. If you guys were going to do this, right, because they have no real mandate to do this, in my opinion. But if you were going to do this, you had all of that time to prepare. Oh, wait, you never thought you'd win.
To do so in line with my values as a Labour politician, but also as a British citizen, and to have solutions that work so that I can unite a divided country. That matters more to me than almost anything else.
She's desperate to be PM.
In politics, I'm not willing to stand back and watch my country be divided when I know we can fix the reason and the...
No. When you look at what's going on here, so Ipsos Mori net satisfaction with Starmer unchanged at -66, the worst rating in Ipsos polling history. It's crazy, isn't it? Look at that. Where's the boy at? Look at that, -66 nuts. Look at that. Sunak had a higher approval rating, not by much. Truss had a higher approval rating. Boris Johnson is higher. Thatcher higher. Only 13% are happy with this. And she's saying asylum seekers are dividing the country. She's saying illegal immigration. Well, illegal immigration and asylum seekers are, according to her. I don't know, man. I'm just so pissed off at this mess. This whole thing, this whole idea of 20 years is just... This person here is just so dumb because... You're talking about as a former asylum seeker, it wouldn't bother me because for 20 years I will still have the same rights as British citizens. No, that's not true. They can tell you your country's safe now. Bye-bye. That's what they can do. That's what their plan is. They're going to say to Syrian refugees, oh, your country's safe now. Civil war's over. See ya. Clive Lewis actually told him to go. Clive Lewis called for his resignation.
But you're being panicked into a racist immigration policy.
I reject that entirely. I am the child of...
No, stop doing this. You're making me look shit now as well. No, stop doing this. I'm the child of immigrants. Stop. You'll never be white enough for these people. The people you are trying to appeal to hate you. Jesus, man. Honestly, this stuff, nothing pisses me off more than this.
Of immigrants. My parents came to this country...
Big up my boy Clive.
Legally in the late 60s and the early 70s.
So imagine, right, your parents were fleeing from a war zone, and then, you find out they have to wait 20 years and then you get deported because the war's over in that specific part of the world. It's crazy to me.
This is a moral mission for me. I can see that...
Look at the phrasing. It's a moral mission. This is a duty she feels like she has to do for the benefit of this country.
Illegal migration is creating division across our country. I can see that it is polarising communities across the country. I can see that it is dividing people and making them estranged from one another. I don't want to...
Is that, same phrases she was using in the other one.
Stand back and watch that happen in my country. What is happening with our illegal migration system is this is a broken system. It's not right-wing talking points or fake news.
It literally is right-wing talking points.
Or misinformation that is suggesting that we've got a problem. I know because I have now seen this system inside out.
Okay, it's basically the same interview as the Koonsberg one.
Big moment for the government.
This is the one we saw earlier, so that's fine.
The people who run the system in Denmark. And the aim here is to make it harder for asylum seekers to come to UK, easier for them to be deported, less in, more out. What exactly are you planning to do that hasn't actually been done before?
Well, we're going to change
question.
a generations-old assumption that providing refuge is permanent. In fact, we're going to make that a temporary status that will be reviewed every 2.5 years. We still believe very strongly, and I believe, that we must provide sanctuary those who are fleeing wars and danger and conflict abroad.
You can build
we
a
still
life
want
here.
to be a country that does that. But
In the space of a few years, you can build a life here. You could find, you know, a life partner, for example. You'd find so many things in this. You know, you could find a job, you can find a house, an area you want to live in. There's so much you could achieve in, forget 20 years, in 6 years, right? They would tear that from someone. That's what they would do. They would tear that life that they have built and tell them, haha, bye bye, time to go, buddy. Your country's now safe according to us. When people are made to survive in a system of desperation, or a situation where the creator of the systemic polarization of humanity excuses their decisions of rule.
Change that so that the status you get when your claim is granted and you're accepted as a refugee is for 2.5 years. And
she's no different to Braverman and Priti Patel. Like they will be hitting the Spider-Man meme at this point.
Which is renewable every 2.5 years, and you're on a much longer path to permanent settlement in this country of 20 years. So that is changing the way that we look at refugee status, and it is designed to prevent some of those pull factors, because what I also want to do alongside the changes that I'm making on reducing those pull factors is to create more safe and legal routes for people to come here legitimately at our invitation, which we believe is the best way to bring people over from danger abroad and help them settle in this country.
All right, well, let's take these in turn. It'll be 20 years for...
I'm baffled, guys. Like, I genuinely, like, holy shit. I said all the smash the gang stuff was bad enough, but this is just so much worse.
Refugee can apply.
I want to see if Zoe Gardner said anything about this stuff.
For permanent settlement. But why would a young man who's coming to work and by and large is going to work in the black economy, send money home, why do you care about that? Because he's actually going to go home before that 20 years is out.
Well, we know that from what actually some of these individuals tell us themselves, that one of the draws to this country is the relatively generous periods of stay and ability to access permanent settlement very quickly, but also the family reunification rights that used to be the case, where effectively after 5 years you've got automatic family reunification. Yeah,
she has said some stuff on it. I bet this latest attack on refugee rights is just the thing to turn it back around, though. She's talking about the polling.
That was halted by my predecessor. That is one of the changes that we will be announcing as well.
But
so
he's still
there are
10, 15 years that he can work, he can build up money, he can send money home. We know remittances have gone up more than doubled in the last decade. That's why people do this.
Well, there's two things I would say to that. Firstly,
conflating those two things is a bit shit, because there are lots of people who come here on a visa who will just work for a few years and go back. It's something, a lot of EU workers did.
You will know we're clamping down on illegal working in this country. We've announced new checks with digital ID, which is where we want to be by the end of this parliament. One credential that allows employers to check someone's right to work.
Digital ID, yeah. So this whole thing, they're going to push the whole digital ID thing, which I think is a bad idea anyways.
Work in this country. Since we've been in office, there have been over 11,000 raids designed to tackle illegal working. We've made over 8,000 arrests. And
using a lot of resources from like police and other things to do these raids, right? You dealing with day-to-day stuff as well?
Actually, 1,000 people have been removed from this country as a result of that enforcement activity. So we've massively...
Wow, 1,000 people. That's great. Tremendous.
Ramped that up. But we know we need to go further.
Further and faster. Just madness to me. I was looking at the polls, right? And if you look at the polling, it's a bit difficult to see because the way YouGov have done this. But if you look at the big issues, right? It is immigration, asylum, and the economy, right? Around the 50 mark together. But the thing is, they put tax as a separate thing when tax would actually fall under the economy. So realistically, the economy is the number one issue, followed by asylum, and then followed by health. You can see health is slowly falling, which is good. I think it will start rising again as we enter winter. But in the space where they've obsessed over the budget, Labour have announced this thing, right? I wonder if it's to distract from the budget a bit. but these policies won't work. Like Denmark, like if you imagine a situation where the Home Office was going to deport women back to Syria, right, in the claims that it's safe, I don't think there'll be a lot of members of the public that'll be happy about that. I genuinely don't. You know, with dudes, they'll probably get away with it, but not with women. I don't think. Not to a regime that's probably going to be quite regressive towards women's rights. The dual idea would probably be handled by one of Tony Blair Institute's mates and donors, probably. Tony's son, yeah, Don Tony's son, yeah, probably. And you know, my point is, you'll never be good enough for the voters you're chasing. You will never be white enough. That's my point. I saw this Kendrick Lamar quote about Drake during the beef, right, where he goes, you know, you talk about your life till we've had enough. How many black features till you feel till you feel that you're black enough? You know, how many more racist policies do you need till you feel British enough or English enough? Really, in your case, this stuff makes me so sad, man. It makes me so sad because, you know, with someone like Sunak, I get it. You know, he's from a different world to me. He might be from South Asia as well, right? But his life is completely different to mine. We were never going to be the same. But with this person here, you know, someone who is meant to be of the Labour movement, you know, talking about a child of immigrants, right, using that to attack other people, someone who's meant to be on the left, it's sad. It's so sad more than anything. You know, my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. But that's how you know, that's the reason why I don't like covering this stuff anymore, because it's sad. It's sad, guys. Like, you expect a lot more from these people, right? They're copying, you know, the most regressive aspects of Denmark's, you know, the most, probably in Europe, the most regressive country when it comes to refugees outside of Russia and what's, not Hungary, I can't remember the name of the country, Belarus. You're talking about some of the most regressive countries. I don't get it, guys. Honestly, like, what more are you meant to say here? Like, genuinely, Hungary's bad too, yeah, but like Denmark's probably the most aggressive country when it comes to that kind of stuff. I mean, that story there is crazy, man. Sending people back to an active war zone. It's just nuts. And you know, I saw this clip. You know, Shabana trying to prove herself to be this Iron Lady on this stuff, right? Kind of like what Theresa May was trying to do. You know, the hostile environment and all this stuff.
Let's go to our political correspondent now, Amanda Acas. Amanda, a huge shake-up ahead from the Home Secretary.
Well, yes, indeed. The illegal migration situation in the UK is a huge mess for the government. And we've heard the Home Secretary talking about the fact that people continue to see these high numbers of small boats successfully making that crossing across the channel, despite all promises from successive governments to stop the boats and smash the gangs. And she says that in itself is really contributing to a lot of...
Really, we should be addressing why this thing's a problem in the first place. You know, why is this suddenly a massive problem? You know, when it came to the lorries, right, the reason why the lorries weren't so publicised is because you only had a couple of people there, and also it wasn't as visible. Like, if you think about how these boats can get tracked, right, it's not hard. Like, they've got the big chopper out here to film this one, or you can get a drone. But if you go to the maps, if you look at how big the English Channel is, you literally have people in what do you call it? Bear with. You literally have people who cover this stuff, who'll go to the ports, right, and actually look at this. So when we look at the actual map, right, when you look at the map, so you can see, look, this is where they're coming off, somewhere near Calais, right, somewhere in this area of France, and they're going over here towards Dover, this area around here, right. Oh, there's a National Trust South Foreland lighthouse. Surprised Farage doesn't go up there to look at boats. But this is the area they go around, right? So it's very easy to track it. Whereas when they had the lorries, it was much harder to see because people obviously hide underneath, which is nuts. But also inside the lorries.
Of faith in politics and the loss of any belief that the government can actually act as a force and get things done. What she doesn't say, it's also led, of course, to a massive surge of support for parties like Reform.
Which is what it's all about. It's because they're scared of reform. That's what this is. It's not anything else.
UK. Now, she really hit back against the suggestion from Sir Trevor Phillips that she'd been bumped into a kind of far-right rhetoric on this and a racist image.
When you look at, like, they've mixed it in, right? So they said there will be ways for people to work and lower the amount of time they would have to claim settled status, right? And she also talked about safe routes. So she snuck those two in there, which are much more progressive, even though the 20-year thing is nuts, right? But, you know, if they implement the 20-year thing and they make it very easy to knock it down to 6, it's still not great. But okay. But when she talked about safe routes, that tells me that they're trying to sneak some good and more positive things in there amongst all the nonsense. But the thing is, you've ceded the ground to Farage. So what's going to happen is your plan's not going to work. You're not going to stop the boats. And what's going to happen? Farage's going to win. Because you've inflated this giant issue. You've turned this into a much bigger problem than it was. And what that means is when you cannot solve it, who's going to come and say, I can solve it? We'll leave the ECHR. That's it.
Migration policy, making the point that she herself is the daughter of legal migrants. The system needs to have fairness, and she talked about the fact that anger about this is tearing our country apart. She says she needs to unite the country, and it's only by dealing with this issue that she'll be able to do that. And also making the point that as Home Secretary, she now has looked at the inner workings of the system, and she does agree it's broken, making the point that
people like Farage would say, if people like Farage were telling you it's broken, and it took you all that time, you had to physically go in there and see how everything was going to come to the same conclusion as the guy you're directly competing against in the polls.
She doesn't think it's a kind of far-right conspiracy to suggest that that is the case. At the same time, also trying to sound a little bit more Labour in moments in terms of talking about the fact that safe and legal routes will be set up to enable people to work and study in the UK, although we haven't heard many details about how that...
We'll wait and see on that, guys. We'll wait and see on those. That's going to be important.
...will work. Now, it is a bit of an extraordinary argument because the government have been in power for 16 months now. To hear the Home Secretary talking about things like, we know that the situation in the UK is seen as a golden ticket for asylum seekers, much more generous than other parts of Europe.
No, we're not. Not more than France, I don't think.
To a surge over the past year in the UK of the number of people coming here and claiming asylum by 18%, whereas other parts of the EU it's actually fallen by 13%, but insisting she is the one to try and take back control, and also attempting at the same time to say some of those other measures like the one in one out deal, like the £500 million given to France, is beginning to work. But I think that's why you hear this pushback, of course, from Reform and from the Tories, describing the measures they previously announced as gimmicks. Reform UK say, under Labour's watch, UK has seen Europe's biggest surge in asylum claims. Only Reform will build detention centres, deport illegals and stop this madness for good. And of course, both the Tories and Reform want to leave the ECHR altogether. They say that's the only way to deport everyone who...
Being nasty towards immigrants isn't going to solve, e.g. the issues of Brexit. No, it's not. The collective arsonists explaining how they will rebuild your home. No plan, no vision. Again, I said this stuff before the election. I said this stuff way before the election.
Tries to come here illegally, and of course that's not what the government want to do. They haven't completely abandoned the idea of asylum for people who genuinely fleeing persecution, and I think that's why this is such a bold political step for them to concentrate on the fact that they're modelling themselves on Denmark, a country led by a centre-left progressive government which have still somehow managed to stay in the ECHR but at the same time bring down the number of asylum claims and increase the number of deportations. Someone else who believes it's not going to work is Enver Solomon of the Refugee Council, who thinks that deterrence won't actually stop those really fleeing war and persecution.
Making people wait 20 years will create huge anxiety and will stop them from being able to put down roots in communities and integrate and go on to contribute as proud British citizens. It could mean that they could get a knock on the door at any point every 2.5 years, being told that they have to pack their bags, uproot themselves, take their children out of school and go back to the country from which they've come. And I don't think that is a decent British thing to do.
Facts, 100%. Again, are they going to do this to Ukrainians? Because, under their logic, if they've been here for less than 6 years and, the war ends, for example, they're going to get sent back. Are people okay with this? All these people who support the Labour Party, are they okay with this? Genuine question, are you okay with this? This is who you vote for: Graham, Phil, Tansky, Bowler Hatman. Are you guys okay with this? Because under their logic, you can make the argument, oh, reform will be worse. It's like, but these are the men you voted for. These are the people you voted for. You specifically kept talking about how great they are. These are your people. Are they okay with this?
So on the one hand, you've got voices from the left and the right arguing that this won't work. Others saying it's not a Labour thing to do. Others saying it doesn't go far enough. But I think for a government that's been in such chaos recently, hearing Shabana Mahmood, someone who sounds so definite, so certain about what the way forward is...
It's literally not going to do the thing she wants it to do.
It's a bit of a breath of fresh air for a cabinet who are in a bit of a mess, and they'll be hoping that if this...
She wants to go for leadership. That's the only reason. I think that's the main reason she's doing this. She wants to look like she's competent in her job. But it's not going to work. All she's going to do is leave a giant minefield for whoever comes after her. But, it's very obvious what she's doing. She sees Starmer is quite weak. And if she doesn't work soon, Wes Streeting's going to go for it. Eventually. The problem she's got is she waits too long. Andy Burnham's going to jump in because they're desperately looking to get Andy Burnham a seat, or Wes Streeting could do it. They don't want to be the one that's essentially taking the shot at the person in charge, which is fair. We saw that with Michael Gove. I think he did that to Boris Johnson, didn't go well. Those guys did it to David Cameron, didn't go well. So you want to be the person who's quietly getting on with what you want to do. And you don't want to be the person who's shivved him. Anti-Iraq Burnham. I mean, you could make that point. There's a lot of criticisms of Andy Burnham, which I think are fair. I've discussed them on Brexit and things like that. For example, he's also done a good job as mayor. He's also done a very good job as mayor. And he's given opportunities to Manchester they didn't have before. Maybe they will rename a back alley star. What? Nadia from Nottingham East. You don't want Nadia Whittam. They're not going to make her leader. Let's be serious now. There's serious conversation for serious people, guys. Not me, a joker who was just looking at Nero from Devil May Cry 5. Definitely not. Serious geezer. That's what we are. But yeah, not much more to say, guys. Honestly, on this one, probably try and stream periodically. I'm going to try and stream more. It just won't be at set times. It's just today. I haven't done anything productive, so I thought, I saw a lot of stuff in the news, so I thought I'd give you guys a little live stream and chat to you guys about what's going on in the world. I think people might appreciate it. I don't know. But yeah, I need to keep the channel alive somehow as well, and this is the easiest way to try and do that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'll probably try and in my head I want to clip these, but I think I hate editing. I hate editing so much. I use editing my own videos anyways, so it's just a pain to do that. But yeah, in general, thanks everyone. Thanks Andy for the super chat and the membership. Really appreciate it. But yeah, I've got a thing on Andy's channel. I'll submit some clips to it. Clip to him. Probably have to work on another one. I might just do it on this, to be honest, or try and have a think about what I do want to cover. But yeah, thanks guys. I'll catch you guys at some point next week, no doubt. Bye.